Hey everyone. We have all heard the warnings about social media and our mental health, right? But for years, the conversation has been stuck on one thing: screen time. Today, we're going to dig into a huge scientific review that suggests we might have been asking the wrong question this whole time. So, this is the big question, really. Is it about the sheer number of hours we're scrolling, or is it something deeper? Something about how we're behaving online and what our relationship with these platforms actually looks like? Well, this is exactly what scientists are zeroing in on now. All right, let's get into it. For the longest time, it was all about screen time, screen time, screen time. But the evidence for it being the main villain, it was actually kind of weak. And that's what pushed scientists to find a new way to look at this whole thing. Yeah, what they were finding was that just counting the hours someone spent online didn't really predict whether they'd have mental health issues. The connection was surprisingly small. It meant you could have one person spending tons of time online and be totally fine, while someone else could spend way less time and be in a really bad spot. So clearly something else was going on.
And that something else now has a name. It's called problematic social media use. This is a total game changer because it shifts the focus away from the clock and onto the quality of our engagement, the nature of it, not just the quantity.
And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. On the left, you've got the old way of thinking, just counting hours. Simple. But on the right, you have PSMU. And this isn't about time at all. It's about a pattern of behavior that, honestly, starts to look a whole lot like a behavioral addiction. And here we have the official definition. I want you to focus on those key words: preoccupation, compulsion, and, my goodness, despite negative consequences. This is when using social media stops feeling like a fun choice and starts feeling like an urgent need, even when you know it's messing with your job, your relationships, or just your own peace of mind. So what does that actually look like in real life? Well, it looks a lot like the classic signs of addiction. It's when you're constantly thinking about social media even when you're not on it. It's trying to cut back, but you just can't seem to do it. It's feeling antsy or irritable or even anxious when you can't get online. It's that feeling of needing more and more of it just to get the same buzz. Sound familiar to anyone? So once they had this new idea of problematic use, researchers could finally go out and try to measure the real connection to mental health. And to do that, they pulled out one of the big guns of scientific research. They did what's called a meta-analysis. Now, instead of just running one new experiment, a meta-analysis is like a study of studies. You gather up all the best research that's already out there and you combine all of their data. It gives you a much bigger, much more reliable picture. In this case, they pulled together a whopping 18 different studies, all of which had looked at this exact link between problematic use and mental health in young people. And when you combine 18 studies, you get an absolutely massive group of people, which gives your results some serious weight. We're talking about data from more than 9,000 people. So when we see what they found, we know this isn't some random fluke. This is a consistent pattern that showed up again and again across a huge population. All right, so with all that data crunched, we get to the main event. What did this massive study of studies actually find? What's the bottom line? And the conclusion was crystal clear. Unlike that weak, fuzzy link with screen time, the connection between problematic social media use and things like depression, anxiety, and stress was moderate and definitely statistically significant. The pattern was real and it was strong. Okay, let's break down this chart. Don't worry, it's pretty simple. Basically, the higher the bar, the stronger the connection. And you can see right away there's a clear link with all three: depression, stress, and anxiety. But look at that last bar. The strongest connection they found was between problematic use and symptoms of anxiety. Now, here's something that's almost as interesting as what they did find. It's what they found that didn't seem to matter. The researchers checked to see if other things might be influencing these results. And nope. Turns out within the age range they were looking at, a person's age, their gender, or even what year the study came out, none of it really changed this core finding, which just hammers the point home. It is the pattern of behavior itself that's so tightly linked to these negative feelings, not these other things. Okay, but before we get carried away, we have to talk about a super important role in science. Just because two things are linked, it doesn't automatically mean one is causing the other. So this meta-analysis confirms a very real connection, for sure. But what it can't do is solve that classic chicken or the egg problem. We know they go together, but we don't know which one comes first.
And this slide lays out the two big possibilities. Is it that a compulsive, unhealthy pattern of social media use causes people to develop anxiety and depression? Or do people who are already struggling with their mental health turn to social media as a way to cope, which then becomes problematic? The researchers think it's probably a two-way street, a vicious cycle where each one fuels the other.
So, where does that leave us? What's the path forward? Well, the authors of the study themselves said it best. Look, just telling people to get off social media entirely, that's not going to work for most of us. So the real focus needs to be on figuring out how to use these platforms in healthy ways so we can avoid falling into that problematic pattern in the first place. And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all, one for you to think about. It's not about how many hours you log, but how you're living those hours. So take a second and think about your own habits. What does a truly healthy relationship with social media look like to you? That is absolutely worth figuring out. Thanks so much for watching.